what's happening in the world right now in Ukraine and Russia, in Israel with Hamas, with the Houthis and with the Iranians, like what's happening is competition is on the rise. So everything becomes less stable. Things become more dangerous. When there's a clear bully in the playground, there's only one bully and nobody has to mess with the bully. And it's a bad day for anyone the bully messes with, but for the most part, everybody else is good. But what happens when there's two bullies? Shit gets messy. The bullies make posses. The posses have to fight with each other. More people get hurt, more rabble-rousing happens in the playground than when there's just one bully. So for me, the United States is the bully on the playground. And I, as an American citizen, am living in a place where it's pretty good to be on the bully's side. So for me, pragmatically speaking, if I want the best for my children, what I really need is for the United States to remain the only bully. So then I can have some impotence, some confidence that their future will be secure.
Do you think the war in the Ukraine and Russia is a symptom of the changing in power? Because it's kind of like a proxy war, right? You've got Ukraine is actually the USA and Russia is actually kind of China to some degree.
So I would say it's not kind of a proxy war. It's a full-on proxy war. You're 100% right.
I don't even know what a proxy war is. I just used that term because it sounded smart.
Well, it does sound smart. It is smart. Proxy war is a doctrine. It's an actual military doctrine that says that you create what's known as intrastate conflict, which means conflict internal to a state, and then external wealth parties fund the conflict in the state. That way, the two external parties that are in conflict don't have to waste any lives. It protects them diplomatically, it protects them socially, it protects them militarily. They're only spending resources in an interstate conflict. The interstate conflict has always been inside Ukraine. Eastern Ukraine and Western Ukraine have always been in conflict. We just didn't realize it until Russia invaded because nobody paid attention to Ukraine. Same thing in Israel. There's always been conflict between the Palestinians and the Israelis. We just didn't really pay attention to it until October 8th. So the conflict that you're talking about is not a symptom, it's a strategy. And the strategy is that the United States can drain Russian resources without draining American lives, which makes it easy for the United States to continue draining strategic resources from Russia. And then NATO's watching the same thing happen, and NATO's the one that has the most to lose if Russia is strong, so then that's why they also pile in support. That's the strategy. That has been the United States strategy since the end of World War II. Who rebuilt Japan? The United States. Who rebuilt the UK? The United States. Who rebuilt Germany? Who rebuilt France? All the United States. Is it any surprise that all of these countries since World War II have then been close diplomatic, political, and economic allies? No. And guess what they all have? They all have very similar sheds because we built their political systems from World War II based on ours, right? That's the American model. That's been how America has grown economically so quickly all over the world. Guess who's mimicking that model now? China. The real conflict between the United States and China, nobody can define it. Trump calls it a trade war because we have a bunch of cheap Chinese goods. That's not the problem. The problem is that Xi Jinping understands that what he wants for China is for China to be a net exporter of high technology. Who's the only other net exporter of high technology? The United States. The United States makes electric vehicles, China makes electric vehicles. The United States makes telecommunication, China makes telecommunication. That's the conflict, because what China is doing is giving the rest of the developing world an alternative to the United States. Well, if just like any other business, if I make coffee and you make coffee, we're in competition for the person who wants to buy coffee. So now we're fighting over that person. Whoever wins that person wins more money. Whoever wins that person wins repeat buyers. And now I might lose my company. My coffee shop might shrink and your coffee shop might grow because this person is choosing your coffee when it used to be only mine was available.
So, who is better for America? Joe Biden or Donald Trump?
Neither. They are both bad for America in different ways.
Who is more likely to prolong American dominance?
Donald Trump of the two. Donald Trump of the two. Here's what I'm going to tell you. I had this thought last night, and I was going to make it a video for my own channel, but my channel is nowhere near as enjoyable as your channel.
I'll put it on yours as well.
There is only one Democrat in the United States who can beat Donald Trump. Only one. Nobody else stands a chance. Democratic Party is struggling to accept that. Nobody can beat Donald Trump. There's only one that can win, and that's Michelle Obama.
I did think this, because, I mean, I would say Barack, but obviously he can't because he's done his 8 years. But Michelle, I do agree, and she doesn't want anything to do with it.
That she said in early July, she wanted nothing to do with it. But what's happened since early July? There's been the assassination attempt on Donald Trump. The assassination attempt turned into this incredible media frenzy. Now you have this guy with blood on his face and a fist in the air and a flag behind him. You have a Pulitzer Prize-winning photo already floating around the internet with this guy on it, right? Everything changed. There's no way Michelle Obama isn't sitting in her room multiple times a day, asking herself the question, do I still want nothing to do with this? Or do I have to step up to the plate to do what I believe is the right thing to do because only I can do it? Think about the questions Barack Obama must ask Michelle Obama. Think about the silence, the pregnant silence around their kitchen table at night. Think about how heavy they must be thinking right now because they know what I just said out loud, that you knew yesterday. There's only one Democrat that can beat Donald Trump. And maybe in July 3rd, she said she wanted nothing to do with it, but now it's July 20th. And if she really believes in this country, how is she not going to rise to the occasion? How is she going to sit back and let the future of her daughters rest in the hands of somebody she doesn't believe in? Because the truth is, if she were to run overnight, she would have the complete support of the entire Democratic National Convention. Every donor who has already donated money would let their money stay with her and probably donate more. Women voters, African-American voters, voters that are on the fence, voters that are looking for any alternative to Donald Trump or Joe Biden, they would all get their answers given to them at once. Not to mention the fact that she's brilliant, she's esteemed, she's youthful, like everything that America stands for is represented in Michelle Obama just as much as what we say America stands for is represented by Donald Trump. So if Michelle Obama is announced at the Democratic National Convention, I'm glad we had this conversation.
Do you think that's possible?
Absolutely, it's possible. I don't think it's probable.
Okay.
But I do think it's possible. And I can't help but have the hope in our country that the few who are willing to learn will step up and accept that they have to gamble on themselves.
Do you think that Michelle Obama would increase the probability and the length of America's dominance versus Trump?
Absolutely. It would just be in a different way. Donald Trump grows through bravado and brinksmanship. He grows like a bully grows. But what we've learned about the United States is that our bullish strategy, our bully strategy that we've been employing since 1950 is a game of diminishing returns. We invest a lot into it, but we lose influence. We lose global reach. We lose power. We're losing economic might. They say that China's having an economic recession right now at 4.5% growth GDP. We're at 1.3% growth GDP. Nobody's talking about our recession because our recession has been on so long, it's not a recession anymore. It's just the United States doesn't grow more than really 3%. China used to grow at 5%, so when it goes from 5% to 4%, it's a big deal for people. Our model is already broken. Our model already doesn't work. So all Donald Trump is going to do is come in and double down on that model because he's only got 4 years in the House. He's only got 4 years in the White House, and he knows it. So he's not out there to revolutionize America. He's not out there to revolutionize the United States. Like, he's out there for Donald Trump. I think he believes he'll do a good job. I think he believes he's best for America. I think he believes that being a bully is the way to go. But that doesn't mean he's right. That doesn't mean it's going to be exponential return on investment. It could be a continuing game of diminishing returns. Michelle Obama has the opportunity to do it differently, as long as she doesn't come in just parroting the Joe Biden and Barack Obama school of thought.
What do you think she would need to say to meet America's ideology right now?
I think she could define America's ideology right now. I don't think she'd have to meet it. I think America is lost. America has been looking down the barrel of the 2024 election for a long time, knowing it was going to boil down to Trump versus Biden, knowing that it was going to boil down to an octogenarian who can't form a sentence from a stage sometimes, or a crazy ass businessman who, when he forms a sentence, it's a nonsensical sentence. Like, that's what we've been looking at. That's been the choice.
Doesn't really feel like it's a choice anymore.
It's
No, because after Trump got shot in the ear, I think, I watched those scenes as well, and I thought, yeah, this guy's won.
He won. And and everybody knows it. If you're not willing to admit it, that's fine. Everybody knows he won the election on that day. The day he survived that shooting in Butler, Pennsylvania, July 13th, he won the 2024 election, unless something even more disruptive happens in the marketplace between now and November 5th. Michelle Obama has the power to do that.
If you were in his marketing team and you were desperate, you would have shot him in the ear that day, wouldn't you?
No way. The risk is too great.
I mean, if you knew it was going to hit his ear and you were in his marketing team, you would have shot him in the ear that day. Like because that was, as we both said, he won the election that day.
Yeah.
And he won the election because many people will now see him as some kind of hero.
So I'll tell you how a CIA officer thinks about this, right? If you wanted to stage an attempted assassination, if that's what you want to do, is stage an attempted assassination, you would never shoot at the person who was the principal. You would shoot away. You'd shoot up in the sky. The principal is the primary target that you're trying to support, right? So Donald Trump was the principal. If I was trying to stage an assassination to win him popular praise, I would not shoot at him because the risk is too great that the shot would either miss and hit him, possibly hit him fatally, or it would miss him and hit someone in the audience. And then a rally member dies, and now we have to account for why somebody at the rally died. Like, people were killed and people were hurt at the Donald Trump rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. If you wanted to stage an assassination, you would shoot 35, 40 degrees off target, well away from anybody accidentally getting hit, because what's going to happen? Everybody's going to hear the gunshots. So the gunshots will still cause the panic. The Secret Service would still jump in. They'd still cover him. There'd still be all the same newsworthiness without the risk of killing somebody. And if you really, really wanted to make it like, so it made headlines, you could even potentially stage some kind of cut that's covered up with a small skin-colored Band-Aid so that when the shots go off, you can wipe off or pull off the Band-Aid and then there's going to be active red spots, right? You would never actually shoot at the principal. That's what people don't understand about conspiracies, is that when you actually plan to carry out a covert action, you plan to carry out the covert action in the safest possible way. You don't run the risk of actually shooting the principal.
So, but let's play out the scenario that it was a conspiracy. So what could have happened there? And I was in an office the other day, one of the companies that I'm involved with, and there was a group of people gathered around a laptop watching the footage, and half of the people thought it was some kind of conspiracy and that maybe he fell down and then like cut his own ear. And then the other half of the people thought that was craziness. What side of the fence do you sit on? You think it was a real shooter?
I think it was a real shooter. Mm-hmm. I absolutely think it was a real shooter. The principles that CIA teaches us about how to analyze a situation are twofold. They teach us how to analyze a situation, but they also teach us how to predict a conspiracy. And conspiracies have a very clear anatomy. They have a very clear process. All conspiracies start with something that is factual. Something really does happen. And then, immediately following the factual thing, there's a lack of information. Inside of that lack of information, the third piece of the puzzle is speculation. Now, speculation and suspicion are very close cousins. Suspicion is healthy, right? You've heard of healthy suspicion. Speculation is not healthy. Speculation is what it takes for you to create an answer to a story that's not based on facts, which is where the fourth element of a conspiracy comes from, a story that closes the loop. Because when there's information missing, it creates an open loop. Well, guess what human brains like? Conveniently closed loops. So we can't handle an open loop very well for very long. So then we start speculating on what might have happened until someone defines for us an answer, and then all of a sudden you have an answer that closes the loop and you have a conspiracy. Conspiracies happen all the time. Conspiracies happen in your own home. Who's the last one that who ate the last piece of bread, right? Who's the one that drank the last bit of milk? How are there no more eggs left in the refrigerator, right? Lack of information leads to speculation, and then we close the loop with a story in our mind. When you look at what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania, there's all the elements for a conspiracy. There's facts, a lack of information, speculation, and somebody's closing the story loop. And all these different conspiracies are gaining momentum. But when you look at the factual analysis of what happened, there are pictures, there are diagrams, there's a corpse of a 20-year-old shooter holding a high-powered rifle on top of a roof aimed at the stage. There's reports of local sheriff and local police officers being notified of that. There's bystanders who have reported that. There's technology that's been employed to verify that. There's enough facts there to know that there really was someone who was young by name who took a shot at the president. That's what we know. Guess what happens tomorrow? We learn more. We don't have to know all the answers today. More information will come. As soon as Donald Trump was shot, I called up one of my friends who's a retired Secret Service officer. And I said to him that from my point of view, from what I understand about close protection, everything was done pretty close to right. There's always gaps at any kind of political rally. That's why they're dangerous. You can't make it 100% secure. That's why there's snipers on the roof. There's not snipers on the roof because they feel like the grounds are safe. There's snipers on the roof because they know that there's gaps. There's not Secret Service on the sides of the stage carrying guns because they think that they're safe. There's Secret Service on the sides of the stage because they know that there's gaps. Of course there's gaps. You can't manage all risks. The person took a shot from over 400 feet. 400 feet is a long, difficult shot. Empirically, it's a long, difficult shot. Even though the newspapers come out and say it's a turkey shoot or an easy shot or a standard shot or a basic shot, it is not. Any hunter out there will tell you 400 yards is a difficult shot, and you have to have a high-powered rifle built for that kind of distance to shoot that length. So there's all kinds of misinformation that's going around as people try to spin up a story. So for me, it was a real assassination attempt by a real person whose motives are still unknown.
Freedom! So fresh on me. Freedom!